be honest with yourself. Have you ever looked around your home and had a strange realization? Not that you need more money, but that you might own too much. The closet that barely closes, the kitchen drawer full of gadgets you used once, the subscription charges you forgot existed. Individually, none of it feels like a problem, but together it creates a quiet financial pressure most people never question. You earn money, you buy things, your life slowly fills up. And yet somehow the feeling of financial stability never quite arrives. If that sounds familiar, good. Because today we're going to talk about something most personal finance advice completely misses. Financial stability isn't just about earning more, it's about understanding the hidden cost of everything you own. Minimalist money rules aren't about deprivation. They're about removing the invisible financial drag that keeps people stuck, even when their income keeps growing. When finishing watching this video, you'll understand why some people earning $50,000 feel calm about money, while others earning twice that still feel one bad month away from panic. And more importantly, you'll learn the rules that quietly separate the two. If this kind of content helps you think differently about money, consider subscribing and giving the video a like, but only if you genuinely find it useful. Now let's talk about the minimalist money rules that quietly create financial stability. Walk into almost any home and you will notice something interesting once you start paying attention. Not the furniture, not the decorations, the storage, shelves filled, closets packed, drawers that require a certain technique to close properly. Boxes stacked in corners holding items that were once exciting enough to buy but not exciting enough to use. At first glance, it just looks like a normal home. But financially, something much more important is happening. Every object in that room is quietly charging its owner rent. Not literal rent you send to a landlord, but space, and space is expensive. In most cities, people pay somewhere between $30 and $50 per square foot per year for the space they live in. Sometimes more, occasionally much more. Now imagine a treadmill sitting in the corner of a bedroom. It takes roughly 20 square feet when you include the clearance space around it. That means the owner of that treadmill is effectively paying $600 to $1,000 per year just to store a piece of exercise equipment, even if they only use it twice a month, even if most days it's holding laundry. This is the first minimalist money rule that most people never calculate. Ownership is not a one-time cost. Ownership is an ongoing subscription. The moment you bring something into your life, it begins demanding space, maintenance, attention, and eventually replacement. And the more things you own, the more your environment starts quietly working against your financial stability. Because possessions multiply, not in the exciting investment sense, in the quiet, expensive ecosystem sense. Buy a coffee machine, and suddenly you also need pods, cleaning tablets, a storage rack, and a place on the counter to keep it. Buy a bicycle, and you may need a rack for your car, a pump, tools, maintenance supplies, and somewhere safe to store it. Buy a camera, and eventually you're looking at lenses, tripods, editing software, and hard drives to store the photos. Every object tends to attract supporting objects. Financially, this is known as the lifestyle multiplier. And once you start noticing it, you see it everywhere. That perfectly normal-looking house suddenly becomes something else entirely. A network of small financial obligations quietly expanding in every direction. Now here is the part most people underestimate. The cost is not just financial, it is cognitive. Every item you own occupies a small amount of mental space. You have to remember where it is, maintain it, clean around it, store it, worry about losing it, eventually decide what to do with it. Psychologists have studied this effect for years. Visual clutter increases cortisol levels and reduces the brain's ability to focus, which means that a crowded environment doesn't just cost you money, it quietly increases stress. You feel it when you're searching for something that should be easy to find. You feel it when cleaning takes longer than it should. You feel it when your home starts to resemble a storage unit for past versions of yourself. The bread maker from the brief baking phase, the camera from the photography phase, the guitar from the 2 weeks you thought you might become a musician. None of these purchases were irrational in the moment. They were hopeful, optimistic, perfectly human. But when enough of them accumulate, something subtle happens. Your income stops building freedom and starts maintaining inventory. Instead of your money buying flexibility, it starts paying for storage, upgrades, replacements, and maintenance. And that's when financial stability begins to slip away, not because someone is irresponsible, not because they gamble or make reckless decisions, but because their lifestyle quietly expanded to absorb every dollar they earn. Minimalists notice this pattern earlier than most people. They realize something important. Most purchases don't improve life for very long, but they continue costing money for years, which means the real financial skill isn't just earning more, it's becoming extremely selective about what deserves space in your life. Once you understand that possessions carry ongoing costs, the way you look at purchases changes completely. And that realization leads directly to the next rule. Because if ownership has hidden costs, the obvious question becomes this: why does the brain keep buying things it doesn't actually need? And the answer is more psychological than financial. If you want to understand why people buy things they rarely use, you have to start with a simple fact about the human brain. Your brain did not evolve for shopping, it evolved for survival. For most of human history, opportunities to acquire useful resources were rare and unpredictable. Food, tools, clothing, shelter materials. When something useful appeared, the correct decision was usually simple: take it, store it, use it later. The brain developed reward systems to reinforce exactly that behavior. Find something useful, get a small burst of dopamine, secure a resource, feel progress, solve a problem, experience relief. Thousands of years later, the environment has changed completely, but the brain has not. Now, instead of occasionally encountering useful resources, you carry a device in your pocket that can present you with 10,000 potential purchases before breakfast. Shoes you did not know existed. Kitchen gadgets solving problems you did not realize you had. Productivity tools promising a better version of your life. Every swipe introduces another opportunity for the brain's reward system to fire. And here's the part most people underestimate. The brain does not care whether the purchase actually improves your life. It cares that a decision was made, a problem appeared. You solved it, dopamine released, which is why online shopping often feels strangely satisfying even before the package arrives. The reward comes from the act of purchasing, not the object itself. This is why packages sometimes arrive at your door and your first reaction is confusion. Oh, right, I ordered that. The excitement was already spent. But the financial cost remains. Marketers understand this dynamic extremely well. They design entire systems around it. Limited time offers, flash sales, free shipping thresholds, countdown timers. These are not random design choices. They are engineered to activate urgency and bypass the slower, more rational parts of your brain. Because the moment you pause and think calmly, something interesting happens. Most purchases stop making sense. The brain's impulse system works quickly, the rational system works slowly. And if the impulse system wins the race, the purchase happens. If the rational system gets time to speak, the purchase often disappears. This is why so many things feel extremely necessary at night and completely unnecessary the next morning. You're not a different person. Your brain simply had more time to process the decision. Financially stable people do not have stronger willpower. They simply understand this psychological trap. Instead of trying to fight the brain's reward system, they create distance between impulse and action. Distance is surprisingly powerful. A few hours, a day, sometimes even a few minutes. Because the strange thing about most consumer desires is how quickly they fade. Something that feels urgent right now often becomes irrelevant tomorrow. You can test this yourself. Think about the last 5 items you almost bought online but didn't. If those items appeared in front of you right now for free, you might take them. But would you go looking for them again? Probably not. The desire was temporary, but if you had acted immediately, the cost would have been permanent. This is one of the quiet financial advantages minimalists develop over time. They stop trusting the urgency of the moment. They understand that the brain is extremely good at creating temporary excitement, but extremely bad at predicting long-term satisfaction. And once you recognize that pattern, something interesting happens. Buying things stops feeling like progress. It starts feeling like a negotiation between two parts of your brain, the fast part that wants the dopamine, and the slower part that understands the long-term math. Minimalists simply give the slower part more time to speak, which dramatically reduces the number of purchases that survive that conversation. But even when people learn to control impulse buying, another financial trap quietly waits for them. A trap that destroys far more wealth than impulse purchases ever could, because this one doesn't feel irresponsible at all. In fact, it feels like improvement. It's called upgrading. Nothing breaks, nothing fails, everything still works perfectly. But suddenly, it feels outdated. Your phone works fine, but the new one has a better camera. Your car runs perfectly, but the new model looks sharper. Your television works, but the newer one is bigger and brighter. And in that moment, something subtle happens. You stop evaluating things based on function. You start evaluating them based on novelty. That's where the upgrade trap begins. Upgrades feel harmless because nothing is broken. They feel like progress. But financially, they quietly raise the cost of your lifestyle. Take smartphones. Many people replace them every 2 or 3 years simply because a new version appears. At around $1,000 per upgrade, that's $10,000 every decade. Over 30 years, that becomes $30,000. And that's just phones. Add televisions, cars, laptops, appliances, and furniture, and the cost of staying current becomes enormous. Not because the purchases are huge, but because they never stop. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, the human tendency to quickly get used to improvements. The bigger screen becomes normal, the faster laptop becomes expected. The excitement fades, but the financial cost remains. Now here's something interesting. A few months ago, people noticed something unusual about a billionaire. Not his house, not his yacht, but his phone. Despite having a fortune worth billions, he was reportedly still using an iPhone 7 with wired earphones. No newest model, no yearly upgrade, just a phone that still worked. That billionaire is Evangelos Marinakis, the shipping magnate and owner of Nottingham Forest FC. Now compare that to the average upgrade cycle. Someone earning $50,000 replaces their phone every 2 or 3 years, not because it stopped working, but because a slightly better version exists. Meanwhile, a billionaire is perfectly comfortable using a phone most people would consider outdated. That contrast reveals something important. People who understand money upgrade for function, not novelty. If the phone still works, the problem is already solved. Minimalists apply the same rule everywhere. The laptop works, the car runs, the couch is comfortable, finished. The item stays until it actually fails. And that simple habit quietly protects enormous amounts of wealth over time. Because once you step off the upgrade treadmill, something powerful happens. Your expenses stop rising automatically, your lifestyle stabilizes, and for the first time, your income begins building freedom instead of constantly maintaining upgrades. Most people believe financial discipline is about willpower. It isn't. It's about friction. The invisible design of your environment quietly determines most of your financial behavior long before you make a conscious decision. If buying something takes 5 seconds and 2 taps on a phone, eventually you will buy something you didn't plan to. If saving requires manual transfers, paperwork, and effort, eventually you will postpone it. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance with remarkable consistency, which means the people who appear disciplined with money often have one simple advantage. Their financial environment is structured differently. Spending is easy for most people. Credit cards are saved on every website. Shopping apps are sitting on the home screen. Notifications appear daily reminding you about sales you never asked for. The entire system is designed to remove friction from spending. Minimalists reverse that design. They add friction to spending and remove friction from saving. This might look simple, but it changes behavior dramatically, removing stored credit cards from online stores, deleting shopping apps from your phone, creating a 24-hour rule before any non-essential purchase, unsubscribing from promotional emails that exist purely to manufacture urgency. Each of these steps adds a small pause between desire and action. And that pause is powerful, because most purchases only feel urgent for a very short period of time. Give the brain a day to think, and something interesting happens. The excitement fades, the object becomes less necessary, and the purchase quietly disappears. Studies on impulse buying suggest that the majority of spontaneous purchases lose their appeal within hours if they are not acted on immediately, which means a simple waiting rule can eliminate a large portion of unnecessary spending without requiring constant self-control. At the same time, financially stable people do the opposite with saving. They remove friction completely. Automatic transfers into investment accounts on payday, savings that move before the money even touches the checking account. Systems that treat investing like a fixed bill rather than an optional activity. Because the moment saving becomes automatic, something subtle changes. You stop deciding whether to save. The system already did it. And over time, those small structural decisions compound quietly, not through discipline, but through design. This is the part many people misunderstand about financial stability. It is rarely the result of heroic willpower. It is the result of small systems quietly guiding behavior in the right direction. Once those systems are in place, good financial decisions stop feeling difficult. They simply become the default. But even when someone masters spending systems, there is another trap waiting further down the path, one that looks harmless at first. Because it begins with something exciting, a new hobby, a new interest, a new lifestyle purchase that seems perfectly reasonable. And then slowly, that one purchase starts multiplying into many others. Most purchases look like a single decision. You see something, you like it, you buy it, simple. But financially, most purchases are not single decisions. They are the beginning of an ecosystem. A kayak is not just a kayak. It becomes paddles, roof racks, safety gear, dry bags, storage space, and maintenance. A motorcycle becomes helmets, jackets, gloves, insurance, maintenance tools, and sometimes even a different vehicle to transport it. The original purchase is just the door. Behind it is an entire hallway of additional costs. This is what some investors call the lifestyle multiplier. One purchase quietly multiplies into several others. And because the additional costs appear gradually, most people never calculate the full price of ownership. The kayak seemed affordable. The motorcycle seemed manageable. But the ecosystem surrounding those items often costs as much or more than the object itself. Minimalists instinctively ask a question before buying anything significant. What else will this require? Not just today, but over the next 5 or 10 years. Storage, maintenance, accessories, insurance, upgrades, time. When you start asking that question honestly, many purchases stop looking attractive, because the real cost is rarely the price tag. The real cost is the lifestyle that grows around the object, and the multiplier works in reverse too. Remove one major possession, and an entire category of expenses disappears with it. Sell the boat and you eliminate storage fees, insurance, maintenance, fuel, and registration. Cancel the second car and you eliminate insurance, repairs, fuel, parking, and depreciation. The savings extend far beyond the original item. Financially stable people understand something subtle. Every object you add to your life increases the complexity of maintaining your lifestyle. More objects require more space, more maintenance, more time, more money, which slowly pushes the cost of your life higher and higher, until eventually your income is not building wealth. It is simply maintaining everything you own. Minimalists avoid this trap by keeping their lifestyle structurally simple. Fewer possessions, fewer ecosystems, fewer financial obligations multiplying quietly in the background. And when your life has fewer moving parts, something powerful happens. The gap between your income and your expenses starts to grow. That gap is where financial stability lives. But there is one final shift that separates people who stay stable for life from those who constantly chase more. Because the most important minimalist money rule has nothing to do with possessions at all. It has to do with a question most people never answer. How much is enough? Most people never define what enough actually means. They assume they will recognize it when they reach it. But something interesting happens as income grows. Expectations grow with it. A slightly bigger apartment becomes normal. A slightly nicer car feels reasonable. A few more subscriptions seem harmless. Each upgrade looks small on its own, but together they quietly raise the cost of your life. So the finish line keeps moving. Someone earning $60,000 thinks life will feel stable at $100,000. Someone earning $100,000 imagines things will relax at $150,000. Someone earning $200,000 still feels financial pressure because their lifestyle expanded to match it. Without defining enough, income increases rarely create stability. They simply create a more expensive version of the same stress. Minimalists break this cycle by deciding in advance what a sufficient life looks like. What kind of home is enough? What kind of car is enough? What level of material comfort actually improves their life? Once that line is clear, something powerful happens. Income can grow without automatically expanding lifestyle, which means the difference between what you earn and what you spend begins to widen. And that gap changes everything. Because real wealth is not measured by what you own, it is measured by what you can choose. Can you leave a job that is damaging your health? Can you take time off if your family needs you? Can you move, change careers, or start something new without financial panic? These options are what wealth really buys: financial flexibility, breathing room, control over your time. The person earning $200,000 but spending $190,000 has very little freedom. Their lifestyle requires the income to continue. But someone earning $80,000 and living comfortably on $45,000 has something far more valuable: optionality. They can absorb surprises, take risks, make decisions based on values instead of survival. Minimalist money rules are not about owning nothing. They are about owning only what earns its place in your life. Because every dollar not spent maintaining unnecessary possessions becomes a dollar that builds freedom instead. And over time, that freedom compounds into something most people spend decades chasing: financial stability. By now, the pattern should be clear. Financial stability is rarely built through one big decision. It is built through small rules repeated over time. And before we talk about those rules, something important needs to be said. Wanting more is normal. Seeing a better phone, a nicer car, or a bigger house, and imagining how life might improve is completely human. Your brain is wired for improvement. The problem is not desire. The problem is instant gratification. When every desire turns into an immediate purchase, financial stability never has time to form. Minimalist money rules simply introduce delay, a pause between wanting something and owning it. And when you create that pause, a few simple rules begin to guide your decisions. Calculate the real cost of what you own, not just the purchase price. Ask the replacement question: if this disappeared tomorrow, would I buy it again? Avoid upgrading things that still work. Add friction to spending and make saving automatic. Understand the lifestyle multiplier, where one purchase quietly creates several more. And define what enough actually means before your lifestyle expands endlessly. None of these rules are extreme, but together they create something powerful: the ability to delay gratification, to choose long-term stability over short-term excitement. And over time, that choice compounds, because wealth is not built by constantly upgrading life. It is built by protecting the gap between what you earn and what you spend. So here is something worth asking yourself. Look around your home. How many of the things you own would you actually buy again today? That answer reveals more about your financial future than your income ever will. And if this video helped you think differently about money, stay. Subscribe. We're not chasing hype here. We're building clarity.